Thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Matt. I am usually the careers advisor for media and performing arts. So that's within the School of Arts and Creative Industries. So if you are fortunate enough to be studying a media or performing arts subject, then lucky you, I am your advisor. So congratulations. If you could, if you're a student who's present, if you could put into the chat box, let us know what you're studying. That would be really useful. And again, any questions, pop them in there too. So today, we're going to very quickly look at your online brand. So what you can do with it, what it is for anybody who doesn't know, how to hide things that you don't want employers to know about, and we're going to sort of touch upon things like how to create an online portfolio. If we have time, we'll also cover a few LinkedIn tips. So this is usually just a half-hour session, but I will stick around for questions afterwards. Okay, so what can you do with an online brand? What's it for? Okay, well, you can use it to show employers that you're interested in a particular subject or a particular industry that you want to work in. Um, it can it can provide a bit more detail about who you are and what your values are and what your interests are and what career you want, and what you're good at and things like that. Because you've only got limited space on your CV. It can show people products you work, things that you've done. So you might have show reels, or you might have online portfolios, or you might have a YouTube video channel, things like that. So those are all part of your brand. So your brand can show people what you're capable of. And very importantly, your brand helps you stand out from other candidates. So what differentiates you from other people? And it helps you to raise your profile in your industry. So just to get a bit of exposure and let recruiters and professionals in your industry know who you are and what you're capable of. Okay, so you can type it into the box. What do you think? What do you think an online brand actually is? So I'll give you a minute or two just to type it in there. I'm trying to read what people are doing in the chat group, but I'm having problems viewing it. It's a tiny little box and it's all cut off, so I can't see it, I'm afraid. But hopefully Maria will be able to see that. So what do you think we mean by your online brand? What is it? Okay, so I'll give you a few moments to type it in there. Okay, so it's everything. Your online presence is everything that's on the internet about you. So it could be networking profiles, your LinkedIn pages, social media. If you've got an online portfolio, your own website, anything about you that's out there on the internet is your online presence. So your online brand is what that presence says about you. Um, so so you could think of it as it was the founder of Amazon who said that it's that your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. So if you think of your brand like that, um, it's what people are going to assume about you basically. So this is why this workshop is about taking control and managing that brand so that you're you're crafting it and you're making it fit what you want people to know about you. So, has anybody seen this before? The Dolly Parton challenge, where you got 4 versions of everyone's best self. So this was all over social media. Blimey, back before lockdown, this was. So, yeah, many months ago. But yeah, for anybody who's got a memory that goes that far back, there were lots of different versions of this doing the round. So you might have seen something like it if you haven't actually seen this one. So what it's basically saying is that you kind of present different faces of yourself. Really, you present yourself in different ways depending on who your audience is. So, as you can see from Dolly's profiles, her Tinder profile is going to be very different from what she's putting out on LinkedIn. We're not talking about Tinder profiles today, by the way. You'll have to go to somebody else for advice on that one. But we are going to cover a little bit about LinkedIn. So um, it's it's important to put a bit of thought about what what people can see, and put a little bit of thought into what's what you're putting online, because you want what your online brand is saying about you to be the same as what you expect it to be saying about you. So what you might want to do is to try and get some feedback from people about what they think your brand is. So um, you might you might do something like join, like there's various MDX mentoring groups for students. So like there's a moving image mentoring group, there's an advertising, PR, marketing and journalism mentoring group. So you could invite people to have a look at your things like your LinkedIn profile and give you some feedback, and really tell you what they think it says about you. You could also contact your friendly neighbourhood employability advisor as well. So come to MDX Works, and that's something we can look at with you. Okay, so some very simple ways to take control of your online brand. Change privacy settings, so make sure you're hiding anything that you don't want recruiters to see. um, Try to keep the attention focus on the good stuff. So um, that means putting things out there that you are proud of, that you do want people to see. So if you haven't got a LinkedIn profile, then you might want to go ahead and create that. um, if you wanted, you could share articles and things that are related to your industry. So that shows your interests, and you might have other networking platforms and things that you're on. So um, you might, by creating more things that you're proud of, that you want people to see, that kind of helps to take people's attention away from the things that you perhaps don't want them to see. Okay, so I'm just going to see if I can check the chat, see if I've missed anything. Okay. Maria, if I'm missing anything, if you wouldn't mind just shouting it out to me, because yeah, I'm having a bit of trouble reading people's chat in the chat box in the minute. Okay, so some general tips. Well, you want to be consistent with your brand. So, for example, if you think about your brand in terms of trying to get a job and employability, you've probably got things on the internet, like you might have uploaded your CV to places, you might be applying for things, you might have networking profiles, you might have your own website or YouTube channels and things like that. And you want those to have a consistent brand and a consistent feel. So I'm not going to tell you like how to design your own logo and things like that today. You don't necessarily need to have things like that, but you want it to consistently be saying the same things about you. So one of the most obvious mistakes people make is often they haven't updated their LinkedIn profile in a while. So they are submitting their CV for a job. First thing the employer does is try and look you up on LinkedIn, and your LinkedIn profile says that you're looking to work in a coffee shop, or maybe you're working in McDonald's or something. But actually, what you want people to know about you is that you're a digital media graduate who's looking to work with an entrepreneurial startup or something like that. So it might be saying completely the wrong thing about you. So check everything that you've got, make sure it's consistent, um, and put some thought into how you first describe yourself on things like LinkedIn. So you would have like a little bio, or you have a summary section on your LinkedIn profile. Well, it's just a little introduction, and you've probably got something very similar on your CV, where you have like a little profile that introduces you. So you can pretty much cut and paste one thing from your CV and put it on your LinkedIn profile, but you don't want to bore people, so you might want to reword it slightly or add a bit of extra detail just to hold people's interest. Um, but you definitely don't want it to be saying two completely different things. Um, so just check everything is what I'm saying, and make sure it's consistent, and take some time looking at what other professionals are saying about themselves, and try and describe yourself using similar terms. There might be jargon in your industry that people are using. There'll certainly be sort of similar skills that people are referring to. So talk about yourselves in that way. Um, right. So next slide. Okay, so if you have gone for some visual branding choices, so you might be using particular color schemes, you might have like a banner image that you're using throughout various profiles. You try and keep it consistent, so similar colors, similar fonts, um, and uh, some of you might be having business cards produced as well and things like that. So again, make sure that stylistically they are um, clearly linked to the CV. So you're using the same style. And as I said, you don't necessarily need to have a logo, but obviously, if you're applying for jobs where you're likely to be creating logos and branding for people, then that could be a really good way of showcasing your skills. Okay, so I think I already mentioned this already. Um, so, but show what you're interested in. You can kind of create a brand for yourself without putting in quite so much hard work, because you can do things like sharing relevant posts, um, and that helps to get you noticed, and it helps show people what you're all about and what you stand for, without you actually having to write those articles yourself, which is quite a lot of work. Obviously, if you are capable of writing articles and you're applying for jobs where you can be writing articles, then things like producing a blog are a really great way to show those skills. I've done it. I created an employability blog before I got a job at Middlesex, so that certainly helped when I was in interviews. Okay, so briefly, we're going to look at hiding stuff. Okay, so most most online sites are going to have some kind of privacy settings, so you can hide the visibility and decide what's public and what's private. So um, choose the appropriate option for whatever site it is. If you're actively looking for work at the minute, you might want to be like hiding. Um, you might want to hide your Facebook posts, for example. So you want to make sure that those aren't public. On the other hand, you don't want to overdo it and completely hide the profiles that you want people to see. So if you've got a LinkedIn profile, you can change the settings so that it shows up in recruiter searches. You can even show that you're actively looking for work as well. But obviously, if you don't want your current employer to know you're actively looking for work, you might want to be a bit careful about that if you're connected to your current boss on LinkedIn. Okay, so um, So there's a slide about updating the privacy settings on LinkedIn. I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but yeah, as I say, you can set it so that you either show up or you don't show up in recruiter searches. You can make your profile fully public so that it can be found on internet searches and things like that. But again, you might want to change that at different times in your career, basically. Okay, and give some thought to creating an online portfolio. Particularly if you do, if you're looking to do a creative job, so not just artists. Um, you might have a portfolio if you're some kind of writer as well. So you might keep clippings or screenshots of articles you've written or links. With things like that, I'd say one thing that you want to keep in mind is that if you are linking to examples of your work that are online, unless you own those sites yourself, then you've got no control of when those might be taken down. So if you've worked for a company and you've written loads of fantastic articles or web pages for them, they might not be around forever. So you might want to keep copies of those somewhere, whether it's screenshots or actual PDF documents of things as you were writing them. But yeah, you might want to keep those and then put them into a portfolio. So it might be a physical portfolio. You might create a PDF portfolio that you can email to employers, or you might have your own website. So you can quite easily create an online portfolio using something like WordPress, um, and yeah, put examples of your work on there. You can also do that in LinkedIn. Actually, you can, if you go to your profile, there's a button for add a new section, and you can put projects on there. So you could talk about projects. You can attach photos and links and things like that. So yeah, definitely consider doing that. In your CV, you could embed hyperlinks that show your work, and that's really good if you do a job that's a bit more visual. If the things that you're creating, if you are creating posters or artwork or graphics or animations and things like that, then a CV that's just words and text just really isn't playing to your strengths. So if you include links that show your work, that really kind of brings to life what you're capable of. So, and the last point on this page is, yeah, consider creating a smaller PDF version of your portfolio. So if you've got a portfolio website, you might want to have like a little mini version with just a couple of examples of your work and your branding that people can download and keep and possibly even share. Okay, so if you create an online portfolio, again, you want to think carefully about what you're going to call it. I mean, if it's your first go, it's usually pretty safe to stick to something like your name and perhaps your profession as well. But yeah, if you go for something else, just you'd be amazed at the pitfalls of doing that. I mean, but the prime example is the all the hairdressers that were called ISIS that lost popularity, after various acts of terrorism by an organisation that use the same name. So you never know how you might be adversely affected by things. So do some due diligence and do a little bit of research just to check if you're calling yourself any other name other than your own. Do some due diligence and just do a little bit of research to see what that might mean or stand for. And again, just be aware it might be different in different cultures and countries as well. Okay, so very briefly, LinkedIn. Um, quick tips for LinkedIn. So use a professional photo. Think carefully about what you say in your summary section. So we talked about that already. Complete all available sections. Check everything you've written, and include at least 5 relevant skills. So there's loads of debate about what makes a professional photo. There are lots of articles you can find on the internet about it. And one thing I would say is that preferences and fashions change. So what people say is okay at the minute might change again in the future. People used to say go for a black and white one because it looks more professional, but now that rule's gone out the window. People aren't so fussy about whether your picture's colour. Some people, I mean, a lot of careers advisors certainly will tell you to go for a plain background. But again, it's not as cut and dry as that. Some people have some quite unusual pictures that make them stand out. But again, every decision you make, it might attract some people, but it might put other people off. So again, check with your careers advisor before you make any bold stylistic decisions. Smiling's always good. Definitely have clothes on. That's always good. I have seen some LinkedIn profile pictures where people have been life modeling with no clothes on, actually. But you get a lot. It's more common to see people with like holiday pictures where they're like chilling in the pool with arms around a couple of friends and drinks in their hand, things like that. But no, I do not recommend that. You should probably be dressed in the way that you dress when you go to work to do the job you want to do. So if it's a very official kind of organization you work for, that might be for men, there might even be a jacket and tie. But for most of us, it's a bit more relaxed than that. So most people will probably, again, this is from my male perspective, you might have a jumper like the one I'm wearing today, or you might have a shirt on or something like that. But you don't want to you dress in a way that's sort of similar to how you expect to dress in your role. If you're not sure, again, ask your neighborhood employability advisor. One piece of wisdom from the internet is always to go one above what you expect to be doing in the job, but that's probably a better rule of thumb for interviews. And again, you can get that wrong. I have seen people sort of show up in dinner jackets and bow ties and things, and you might end up looking like a magician if you're not careful. So a word of caution on that is aim high but not too high. So what else have I said? So complete all available sections on LinkedIn. That makes sure you show up higher in recruiter searches. Check everything you've written very carefully. The number of LinkedIn profiles I've reviewed where people have said they've got attention to detail and then put customer service and customer service and things like that. So don't be one of those people. Check everything yourself, get someone else to check it, get your employability advisor to check it, and make sure that your brand is at least saying that you're an accurate person who checks everything and is meticulous before you even start worrying about sort of stylistic choices and colors and things. So recommendations and endorsements, they're the currency of LinkedIn. So MDX Works can always give you a recommendation, but most people would expect to have at least a couple of recommendations on there. So recommendations are a bit like it's a bit like a reference, really, where one person has written a brief statement about another person to say that they were great to work with, usually. So the best way to get those is to give them to other people, and that encourages them to do the same for you. So show your interest by sharing posts. We've covered that. Follow companies you like to work for. So absolutely, the groups you're in and the people you're following, that all kind of adds up to sort of say something about you. If you're not following like the major players in your industry, then you might look like you don't have that awareness of who the big players are, or maybe who the competitors are, and things like that. So yeah, the companies you follow, the kind of articles you share, kind of show that you're switched on and you're knowledgeable, and it it sounds like it's difficult, but it's really not. Just once you've built up a network of connections, you'll see what kind of things other people are following, and my general recommendation would be try to avoid controversy. Try and stick to sharing articles that are well within the bounds of what other people in your industry expect and value. So. Okay, sign up for job alerts, check the visibility of your profile, and yeah, since you put in all this hard work into your LinkedIn profile, make sure you've got a link to it in your CV. Yeah. So other social networking sites and professional networking sites are available. I know I've talked about LinkedIn quite a lot, but check what's being used in your industry, what platforms people are on, what portfolio websites people are using, and those can change. So, if you're looking at this presentation in the year 2030, some of this advice may not apply. Okay, and yeah, here's just a few tips for LinkedIn profile pictures. Again, I mean, this applies to other professional networking profiles as well. Um, make sure it's up to date and you look like you, so that when you're going along to interviews, people aren't shocked that you've aged 30 years or that you may not be the right person. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. Um, and as I say, smile. That's always a good tip. And make sure it's a good quality image. It's not too foggy or blurry. And yeah, try and wear something similar to what you'd expect to wear to work. There are lots more tips for LinkedIn on the internet, and we've got a LinkedIn guide at MDX Work. So if you want to know more about that, get in touch. We've also got guides for creating your own online portfolio. Um, so we're nearly out of time, so I'm just going to skip through these tips on LinkedIn. If you do want to know a bit more, get in touch. Um, Definitely check out LinkedIn Learning as well, because there's lots of online courses on there on a lot of topics. I think they're largely kind of technology and business, but there are other things available as well. Um, so let's see if there's anything else. I think we've just about come to the end. So check my notes. Um, yeah, okay. So yeah, when you're thinking about your brand, think of it, think try and think of it like you're the head marketer for brand you. Yeah, so that was one great tip that I got from a colleague at MDX, and try and promote the things that you're most proud of. Yeah, so have a little have a little think about what are the things you've done that you're most proud of, and share those when you've got new achievements, new things that you've done. Keep sharing those, and that will continue to become part of your brand. So don't just go away, spend the rest of the evening working on your brand, and then forget about it forever and ever. It should be a constantly adapting and changing and growing thing. And um, yeah, try and think about what you want to be known for, and perhaps ask a few other people what they think your brand is. Yeah, and that will help you see how you need to change your online brand. So I hope that's helped. That's everything. If anybody's got any questions, ignore that slide where it says you need to go and register. You don't need to go and register. Just if you've got any questions, email mdxworks@mdx.ac.uk, and your message will then get passed on to the relevant advisor. So if you study media and performing arts, that would be me, but other advisors are available, um, and so you'll be put through to the most relevant one. So that's it. Thank you very much for listening, but I'm just going to check now if we've got any questions. Um,
Not from what I've saw.
no?
So,
Okay.
yeah, any questions, guys? Just pop them in the chat box.
I can see somebody's asking what department I work for. So MDX Works, careers and employability service, the best careers and employability service in the world, of course. So yeah, we are purely online at the moment for obvious reasons, but yeah, we're all working hard. So you can get hold of us by emailing mdxworks at mdx. There's the phone number there. We're still answering the phones. They've now been diverted through to us at home. And we all have regular appointments with students as well, so you can, as well as emailing us things like your CV for review or your link to your online profiles, so we can review things like LinkedIn. We do a lot of that, but you can have like a one-to-one video appointment or a telephone appointment as well. So been doing a lot of those recently.
There are two questions.
Okay.
May I email you about starting as a social media assistant?
Absolutely. Yeah, you definitely can. I have to say I've been looking at vacancies recently, and I'm glad to say that I have seen quite a few roles for people working on social media. There's been a few that have been remote working from home, um, and there's been quite a few kind of social media assistant roles, either full time or internships. If you want to work as a social media assistant, if you need to build up experience, um, charities are often a good way to start. There's a charity jobs website that has lots of jobs like that often in various charities. Every organisation has social media channels these days, but charities are often a bit more flexible about people's working hours and things like that. So if you need to build up a bit of experience, that can be a good place to start. Some of them do pay as well, but a lot of them are voluntary. But otherwise, one of my favourite jobs boards, if you're looking for like full-time paid roles or paid internships for that kind of thing, is usually Glassdoor, glassdoor.co.uk. So if you look for roles as like a social media assistant or similar, you should find that. LinkedIn is always a fantastic place to search for jobs as well. I'm sure if my colleagues that are present have got any other suggestions, they'll chip in. But I've got a I've got a list of useful links for roles in things like marketing and PR and advertising and yeah, there's a lot of links there for jobs boards where you can find those sorts of jobs. So if you want that, just email me. My email is m.lewis, so it's Lewis at mdx.ac.uk. So yeah, you can email me for that list.
Matt, one more question
Mm-hmm.
regarding the LinkedIn summary. Would you recommend using bullet points?
For your LinkedIn summary, it depends how long it gets, really. I think there's a few bullet points on mine. You'll have to go and have a look on LinkedIn and check. But yeah, on the summary, um, I think as you sort of often, I encourage people to start with their profile on their CV as the starting point for the summary on their LinkedIn profile. So usually on a CV, that's written as a short paragraph, and then after it, you've got your key skills bullet pointed. So it's probably good to start it as a paragraph because it's more like it's telling a story and a bit less like a shopping list then. So I'd say start with a paragraph. But I think if anybody's sneaky enough to find mine, it starts with a paragraph, and then I think I've actually listed some of my main areas of skills and expertise immediately after it. So yeah, you could do something like that. If you've got a lot of information, it can be quite good to list bullet points, list using bullet points, and with things like skills, I'd say rather than just having this kind of wish list of skills you wish you had, it's always good to kind of back them up by maybe having a sentence or a line or two just to say in what context you've used that skill and what did you achieve, what were the results. So if you're claiming that you've got excellent social media skills, you might want to phrase it by, well, how much engagement do you get? What's the kind of reach for things you're publishing? Or you might talk about it in more sort of technical terms, like what are all of the different social media platforms that you're used to using? Um, things like that. Do you plan social media campaigns, or do you just write interesting and engaging posts? Things like that, really. Were there any other questions? Did you notice, Maria?
No, no more questions.
Thank you very much for your help.
You're
Yes, so thank you for listening, everybody. And yeah, if you need any help with like myself and the rest of the team, we're all available. We're working online, so we're still here. Just get in touch if you need any support. So CV reviews, opinions on your personal brand or your professional networking profiles, tips on where to look for jobs, any pointers on vacancies we might have seen recently. You name it, we've got tons of guidance we can give you. And make sure if you haven't done so already, you've registered with mdxworks.co.uk. untitled.com, because that's where we have a jobs board there. That's where we put all of our resources. That's where we have details of any kind of online events that are coming up. And yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much, Maria, for moderating. It's been really helpful. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Goodbye for now.